What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sideline Sports. It's been a minute, but sports are back on, at least the ones that I report on. 49ers and Warriors are going to start to heat up. Niners playing their first game this week, Sunday, 1 p.m. Let's start talking a little bit about them. Before we do, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Come on in, guys. Let's talk a little football. What are the worries for the 49ers? Are they Super Bowl contenders? I think we're going to talk a little bit about Jauan Jennings and why that is different in that situation compared to other wide receivers like Brandon Ayuk as far as the negotiations go. And I think it's kind of obvious, but it's been just talked about in the last 2 weeks to no end. Maybe because there's not a lot of news coming out of the Niners as far as drama, which is fantastic. I personally think that this Niner team is going to run through CMC if they're going to be successful at all this year. I think the run game is going to be very heavy. But getting back to Jauan Jennings, the biggest thing that's going on with Jauan Jennings is he recently signed a contract maybe 6 months ago, something like that, and now he's asking for more money. And the way he goes about it, I think, says a lot about the Niners' willingness to negotiate with him. On top of that, he just got a new contract 6 months ago or so. But now that Brandon Ayuk is not going to be back for the beginning of the season, which we all kind of knew he wasn't going to be, we were looking more at like maybe November, December timeframe for Brandon Ayuk. So that fact led Jennings to believe that maybe he was in a position of power to negotiate his contract up. And so what did he say? He said, pay me or trade me. That is what Jennings said, pay me or trade me. And the Niners cannot continue to be held hostage by players who are going to tell you to pay me or trade me when they just paid you 6 months ago. That is a ridiculous notion to come out and say. And he's not a number one wide receiver, guys. He's a number three wide receiver on a team that's pretty good. Are we Super Bowl contenders? That is another question that we can get into in just a little bit here. But Jennings does not have the power to go to the Niners and demand something like that, because there's a third option. And that's what I said with Ayuk last year. And that third option is you don't pay him until the contract is up. You don't trade him because you need him on the team. You just play the guy. Or don't play him. But you don't succumb to players out there constantly demanding more and more money just because they think they have the power to do it. And as long as the owners give them the power, they will continue to get it. Now, sometimes it's worth it, and sometimes they deserve it. But in this particular case, and I like Jennings a lot, guys. Jennings is one of my favorite wide receivers. I think that he's vastly underrated in the league and with this team. When he needed to step up, he's always stepped up. He has basically Velcro hands. He catches everything that is thrown at him. He's not the fastest guy, but he gets open a lot. He runs his routes very cleanly, very crisply. He is a really, really good wide receiver. But the fact of the matter is he is still a number 2, number 3 wide receiver on this team. He just signed a contract, and then going to the team and trying to hold them hostage like that is just a bad look for Jennings. It's a bad look for the Niners that they pay him. So I think what's going on now is exactly what I would have hoped to happen, which is, you know what? We're not going to do anything. You're going to play your contract out. They just gave him more money, and he's not getting another contract till he pays this contract out or gets closer to the end of this contract, just like every other player. I understand that you don't want to go ahead and sign a wide receiver at the very end of the contract right when it ends. That's not how business is done in the NFL. I get that. But the fact of the matter is when you sign a contract and you're 6 months into it, maybe not even, and you start demanding more money, well, you kind of deserve to just get the door shut in your face. It's like, no, you get out there, you shut up and you play. And guess what? Jennings is on the field now, guys. He's been on the field for a couple days, and I do think he's going to be ready for week 1, but we got other players that the Niners have gone and signed. I mean, we got Scantling, who I think is a fantastic player, a great pickup for a wide receiver, and the wide receiver core was very, very thin when you take a look at who the Niners actually had on their roster. But Marquez, am I saying it? Marquez Valdez-Scantling is a good, serviceable wide receiver who you could put out there with Jennings, and maybe a couple other guys, just plug and play for now with the roster the way it is. I mean, you got Ricky Purcell, who I think Ricky Purcell is going to be a great player in the future, and I think he might take a step forward this year. If he doesn't get hurt, he's got speed, okay? He can catch the ball, and he can stretch the field. That's the kind of wide receiver you need on this team. And anybody who says, by the way, that Brock Purdy can't stretch the ball down the field or doesn't have a good enough arm, I heard that yesterday on the radio, and I don't know some of these people who call in who are pushing nonsense like that. That's ridiculous. I would say Brock Purdy's got a decent arm. Does he have the strongest arm in the league? Absolutely not. But he's got a decent arm. So anyway, Jennings, I think that thing is put to bed for at least this year. I don't think they're going to pay him. If they do, it's going to be quiet, and it's going to be when the Niners are ready to. But I don't think the 49ers can afford to be held hostage by wide receivers and players year after year. Brandon Ayuk did it last year, and what did it do to the Niners? It just bit them, completely bit them in the ass. The bottom line is now they have a player who was out most of last year, not most, but a good portion of last year, okay, when he was playing, Brandon Ayuk, when he was playing, he was not playing at elite receiver level talent. And guess what? He was getting paid like an elite wide receiver. I never looked at Ayuk as an elite wide receiver. I thought he was a very, very good wide receiver. I always thought the 49ers could upgrade to a true number one wide receiver, and Brandon Ayuk would be a very, very good, if not the best, number two wide receiver in the league. I think he's somewhere in between, to be honest. I think he is between what a number one wide receiver should be and a number two wide receiver is. I think Brandon Ayuk is kind of somewhere in the middle. I think he's a good number one. I don't think he's an elite number one wide receiver. He's getting paid elite wide receiver money, which kind of bothers me. But hey, if he can get back on the field and get back on track and start looking like he used to look, then I'm okay with it. But last year was a complete dumpster fire for Brandon Ayuk, and he ended up hurt, injured, and now we're waiting for him to come back. In the meantime, the wide receiver core is a little thin. We got, like I said, Ricky Purcell. We got Jennings if he starts week one. We got Scantling if we know he's been elevated because we didn't want to lose him. And then guess what? This team is going to be run through a couple other guys, and those guys are going to be Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle. And that's where the majority of the offense is going to run through. We are going to use wide receivers, obviously, no doubt. But when you take a look at the way this Niner team is structured for this year, it's very clear that this team, to me anyway, is going to be a very run-heavy team. I think that's where they're going with this, and I think Christian McCaffrey is going to have an excellent year this year. I think that he's going to have a breakout year. Well, I don't even want to call it breakout. He's a veteran. You can't call it a breakout year, but he is going to have a rebound year. Let's call it that. His year is going to be a monster rebound year. I really believe that. If I could have got him in my fantasy football league, I would have picked him. I couldn't get him. I think a lot of people know he's on his way to a recovery year where he's on a mission to show people that he's ready to go. And if anybody's seen Christian McCaffrey in the weight room or during practice or anything in this offseason, he's a monster. He actually looks jacked. This year he looks bigger and badder and faster than maybe he ever has been. So I would expect Christian McCaffrey to run all over people this year. Be ready to watch that on Sunday, guys. He's going to be good. He's going to be good. So the next question comes up. How good is this team really then? Right? Is this team, again, a lot of people talk about, is this a team that could win a Super Bowl? Is this team that's just, is it fake? Are they going to be towards the bottom of the standings? Here's the bottom line, guys. We don't know yet. We don't know because we got a lot of second-year players that are stepping up this year. We got to see a lot of second-year players come in and do their part and take steps forward. If they do, this can be a very, very good 49er team. If they don't, I think they're going to be just an average 49er team that will probably make, a wild card spot, probably a wild card spot or playoffs. The division is not super strong except for I believe the Rams, if their quarterback situation gets taken care of, will be a very difficult team to beat. I think Arizona is going to be beatable. I think Seattle is more than beatable. And so I think the 49ers are in a good position to take the division, even if they're just a little bit better than average team. I think they have enough weapons on this team right now to go ahead and take the division. I think they very well could take first place in the division and get a playoff spot. I also could see them taking a wild card spot. A lot has to do with how these second-year players and third-year players come through and play. A lot of it's how injuries build up, if there are any. God willing, we don't see the injuries we saw last year, because that was an absolute dumpster fire, guys. It was horrible. So, I mean, if the injuries stack up, like they seem to do with the Niners year after year, we could be in for a long year. There's other things to take into account other than the offensive weapons, guys. Like, does Brock Purdy get more than 3 seconds to throw the football? The offensive line was not really upgraded in the offseason. I didn't think they did a great job at that one area that they should have, because let's look at it this way. You just paid Brock Purdy a ton of money. You paid him elite quarterback money, and then you didn't upgrade the offensive line. What is the one thing that elite quarterbacks in this league constantly have? They have a great offensive line. Tom Brady had a fantastic offensive line the majority of his career. Would he be as good as he is on other teams like the Browns or the Texans or, I don't know, Carolina? I don't know. I don't think Tom Brady's name would be what it is without those tools around him to help him succeed. If you want Brock Purdy, and I'm not comparing Brock Purdy to Tom Brady, so anybody out there listening, that's not what I mean. But if you want to give the guy a chance to succeed with his career, you have to protect him. And I don't think the Niners are really doing a good job of protecting him. So what are they going to do? They're going to run the ball a lot. They're going to run a lot. They're going to do a lot of dinking and dunking. That's where George Kittle is going to come into play. I think Christian McCaffrey and Kittle together will be trading off plays quite a bit. Parcells going to be sprinkled in there. Jennings will, if Jennings can get his stuff together and get on the field and care. We'll get Brandon Ayuk back in week 5 or 6 if we're lucky, maybe 7 or 8. But in that general area, and he would have to be good. He would have to be ready to go. And that's hard to say as well. So there are a lot of deciding factors into whether this 49er team is going to have a legitimate run at the Super Bowl or if they're just kind of like a one and done in the playoffs. I think worst case scenario, they're one and done in the playoffs. Best case scenario, yeah, they go to the Super Bowl. I think it's possible with the tools and the weapons that they have around them. But they do have to make sure they stay healthy. They got to make sure they take care of Brock Purdy. Now the defense. I think the defensive side is going to be actually fantastic now that we got Robert Saleh back. With Saleh back, I think that he's not only going to influence the veteran guys that he coached when he was here before, but a lot of the young guys, a lot of the second and third year guys, they're going to respond to him. He is a very, very energetic, hands-on coach, and he's the kind of coach that gets a lot out of the younger players. He did when he was here before. He will do it again now. I think that defense is going to be so much better than people even realize. The Niners defense is going to be good. There is an Achilles heel there. The problem is that the Niners have a secondary that is not so fantastic yet, as of yet. Do we have some young guys in there that might turn that around? Sure, I'm hoping for that. But that's the one thing that I'd be worried about other teams trying to go deep downfield on these secondaries who really can't keep up. So there are a couple of things on this team that are like standing out like a sore thumb to me. The number one thing is the offensive line. The number two thing are the corners in the secondary. Are those guys going to step up and be able to cover a wide receiver long enough to get pressure on the quarterback? And by the way, the Niners weren't very good last year at getting pressure on the quarterback. So drafting Williams was a really, really good idea. Getting somebody in there, and I'm not saying Williams is going to be the end-all be-all, but getting some help on that line, I think Williams is going to be more of a run stopper than he is going to be a pass rusher, but let's see how that goes. They moved him closer to the interior of the line because the Niners line was leaking like a sieve and people were being able to run all over them last year. Matter of fact, I don't know why teams didn't do it more. If I was the coach of an opposing team, I would run the ball, and that's all I would do against the Niners because they just absolutely couldn't stop it. I think the Niners know that, and I think that they took the precautionary measures to go ahead and remedy that. But you got guys like Fred Warner on the defense that's leading this defense. You got guys that are going to step up, and Demarcus Robinson's going to be a great wide receiver when he gets back on the field after his suspension of, I believe, three games. So we got to survive that. But overall, guys, the glaring issues are just the corners and the offensive line. The special teams has been upgraded. The offense still has weapons. We still got weapons on offense. Those are not the biggest. How many touchdowns we're going to score, guys, is not the biggest concern for the 49ers. And I hear a lot of talk about offense. I don't hear a lot of talk about defense. I don't hear a lot of talk about special teams. I don't hear a lot of talk about the corners. And those are the areas that the Niners need to vastly improve on this year if they want to be better. And if they don't have the offensive line step up and take another step forward this year, then Brock Purdy is going to be running for his life a lot. And that just tells me that we're in for a long year, if that truly is going to be the case. And I haven't seen anything to convince me of otherwise. So where are we? Where are we with what this Niner team is going to look like this year? Having said all of those things, this Niner team is going to be a pretty good team, not an elite team, unless we see something spectacular out of the second and third year players, guys. That's really what it is. That's really what it is. Can they be a Super Bowl team? Sure. Not any team. A lot of teams can come out of nowhere. There's not a lot of talk out of camp, which is good news. I didn't see a lot of the starters playing in any of the preseason games, and I didn't see a lot of schemes being thrown out there in preseason. And that tells me they're like keeping a lot of things close to the vest on this, guys. I think that the Niners and Shanahan want to come out and make a statement early, and if they do, it could set up this whole season. If they don't, it could be a long season. For me, I'm in the middle right now. I'm on the fence line about what this team really is. They're not going to be garbage. I know that much. I know this isn't a team that's going to be garbage. But is this team going to be a team that can contend for a Super Bowl? Or is this a team that is going to kind of just work their way into the playoffs and kind of be a one and done in the playoffs? I'm somewhere in the middle there. I'm waiting to see what it looks like. And until we go and analyze this from game to game, we won't really know. But I do know one thing, that those areas of concern I talked to you about, the offensive line, the secondary, if those things don't get better this year, it's going to be a lot more difficult for the Niners. That's all I'm saying. Can Brock Purdy take this team where they need to go? Absolutely. Anybody who doesn't trust Brock Purdy, all you have to do is look at the guy play. Is he an elite quarterback? No. But does he stay in the pocket? Yes. Does he have fear? No. Does he throw the ball accurately? Yes. Can he run fairly decently? Yes. He is better than average, guys. This guy is still a top 5 quarterback in the league if you ask me. What do I know? But I think he's a top 5 quarterback. I really do. And I think he can take this Niner team places as long as we stay healthy and as long as he can stay upright. So let's see where that goes. I think overall, I like the defense. A little worried about the secondary, but if we can get more pressure on the quarterback, maybe the secondary doesn't have to work so hard to cover wide receivers for so long. So we'll see if we get a little bit more pressure to the quarterback, and then let's see what happens with that offensive line. If they can keep Brock Purdy upright, then we are looking at a Niner team that could probably surprise a lot of people with Christian McCaffrey coming back and looking like a beast, with Kittle ready to go looking awesome, with Parcells stepping up and taking another step forward this year, staying healthy, could do wonders for this wide receiver core, with Jennings just keeping his mouth shut and playing football. I think right now, keeping my fingers crossed, we're actually looking like a football team that could be pretty decent this year. Overall, I'm optimistic about this 49er team being maybe not just a playoff team, but a contender. And I think that there's a lot of things that can go right that will make that happen, okay? You never know. Also, they might make a trade somewhere in the middle of the year. Maybe upgrade that wide receiver core a little bit. Overall, like I said, I'm on the fence line of whether they're a Super Bowl contending team or if they are just a playoff team. But one thing's for sure in my mind, they are a playoff team. They are a playoff team. So this is not a team that's going to be bad. This is not a team that's going to miss the playoffs. It's going to be exciting to watch them throughout the year. And I think my gut tells me that they have a shot at contending for a Super Bowl. But we got to see how those players progress. I'm excited to watch it. I'm excited for football, guys. It has been too long since I've had the last podcast, but now football's ramping up. Basketball's going to ramp up soon. And you guys know I cover Niners and Warriors. I don't really cover other teams right now, so there's a lull there. But anyway, keep watching, guys. Thank you for the support. I'll see you in the next one, which will be Friday. And then we will do a post game on Sunday talking about Niners football. And then we'll do the obvious Niner podcast on Monday to just do the Monday quarterbacking thing and talk about what they did well, what they didn't do so well, and where we think they're going into week 2. Guys, thank you again. I will see you in the next one. Remember to hit the like, hit the subscribe, and we'll continue on. It's been a lot of fun. And let's go Niners. Get ready for some football. See you later. Oh, and remember, John says hi. And remember, hard work beats talent when talent don't work, guys. I'll keep working for you. You keep watching. See you in the next one.